Welcome back to the deep dive. There's this specific kind of dread, right?
I know exactly what you mean.
That moment when you realize the foundation, the very ground you've built your whole survival strategy on.
It's just sand.
It's just sand.
Yeah.
And for the group we're tracking, that moment is, it's happening right now. We've synthesized all the critical data leading up to this final confrontation.
Yeah.
And, well, the picture is just shattering.
It really is. And that's our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? To really get into the weeds on these developments leading up to the climax.
Right.
Because we can't just focus on the monster they know, on Vecna. We have to go deeper.
Past the surface.
Exactly. We need to understand the true, the multidimensional nature of this threat, which means we have to reassess everything, the dark dimension, the new alliances that are forming, and the sacrifices that are being telegraphed so clearly.
It's heartbreakingly clear. The stakes are just, they've never been higher. We're not talking about saving a town anymore.
Oh, not at all.
We're talking about saving the continuity of reality itself. Vecna's pulled the trigger on this collapse, and it's forcing everyone, the kids, the adults, even the scientists, to admit that everything they thought they knew
Was wrong.
Fundamentally wrong. And if you're wrong about the basic rules of the universe, how do you even begin to map out a victory?
That's the core tension, isn't it? That is the absolute heart of the problem they're facing. This fight has grown so far beyond Hawkins, they're up against an entity that plays by a different set of rules entirely. Superior rules.
And now they can see the proof of that power, literally, in the sky.
It's hanging right over their heads.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's unpack what is, for me, the single most critical piece of new information. It's this realization from Dustin. He drops this absolute bombshell. He says, this whole time, everything we've ever assumed about the Upside Down has been dead wrong.
That one line, it changes everything.
It redefines the entire conflict. Let's dig into that.
It absolutely does. Think about it. If you go into a chess match, and you've been studying chess your whole life, but then halfway through you realize your opponent isn't playing chess at all. They're playing some other three-dimensional game you've never even heard of.
You're at a catastrophic disadvantage.
Instantly. So it brings up that crucial question. What were the assumptions that were wrong? For years, they've operated on this idea that the Upside Down was just a dark mirror of Hawkins.
Right. Time frozen, cold, empty. A shadow.
Exactly. Its whole identity was defined by its relationship to our world, to the right side up. They thought its dangers were, at least predictable, tethered to the geography of their town.
But if that baseline is wrong,
it means they're not just dealing with a reflection.
Yeah.
They are dealing with a system that is far larger, far older, and way more sophisticated than they ever imagined.
Okay, so if it's not a reflection of Hawkins, then what? What is the real threat they're facing now? If the Upside Down isn't the source of the problem, where is it actually coming from?
And that misunderstanding is the key. It's the key to this whole final act. It points directly to the revelation of what we have to start calling Dimension X.
The Mission X.
The Upside Down was never the origin point of the darkness. It was a beachhead, a forward operating base.
Or, like you said before we started, a disposable annex.
A disposable annex. I like that. We have to think of Dimension X as the true center of gravity for all this darkness. It's the realm where the Mind Flayer rules, where this dark energy was born. It's where Henry Creel first connected to it all those years ago.
Wait, okay, I want to push back on that idea of disposable just for a second. If the Upside Down is expendable, why did Vecna spend so much time and energy ripping gates open into it? Why all the focus on Hawkins? That suggests it still has some kind of strategic value they're missing.
That's a critical question. And the value isn't intrinsic, it's operational. Think of it this way. The Upside Down is the perfect proxy dimension because it's already linked geographically and psychically to Hawkins. It allows Vecna to target his victims through a filter they recognize. It gives him access. It's a very specific, highly detailed key needed to unlock a very specific door.
The door to our reality.
Precisely. But once Vecna achieves his main goal in Hawkins, which is what the Upside Down represents, well, the key isn't needed anymore. The door is open.
And so the Upside Down itself could just collapse.
It could literally start to cave in on itself as the greater power of Dimension X asserts total control. The utility of that dark reflection is gone. The transition phase begins.
And we are seeing the visual confirmation of that transition phase. Yeah. It's terrifying. You have multiple characters, Steve, Dustin, Mike, Jonathan, Nancy, all of them, looking up at this horrifying, massive red structure.
An energy beam.
Yeah, boiling like a volcano in the sky. They use words like insane and crazy. This is not some localized event.
No, this is atmospheric. planetary even. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, that red structure is profoundly significant. It's too big, too violent to just be another gate.
Or one monster attacking.
Exactly. This is the visible precursor to Vecna's promise of a new world. From an analytical standpoint, this red structure could be a few things. One, it's the raw energy source for his final ritual.
The nexus point.
The nexus point, yes. Or, more ominously, it's the visible manifestation of Dimension X literally tearing its way into their reality. The boundary is breaking.
And the fact that it's visible from both the upside down and the right side up.
That confirms it. The entire dimensional fabric of their reality is being fundamentally rewritten or destroyed to make way for the new one.
It's not a portal they can just close with psychic energy this time. It is a celestial takeover, actively in progress. The structural integrity of reality is failing.
And the villain is the one pulling at the threads.
Okay, let's pivot from that macro-dimensional threat to the micro, psychological war being waged. Let's talk about Will. In Volume 1, we saw him tap into these new tracking powers, this intense connection to Vecna. But the data we're seeing now shows he's still incredibly fragile.
Very fragile.
He needs Joyce to console him, tell him, this isn't over, don't worry, this isn't the suddenly superpowered hero we might have been expecting.
No, and his condition really confirms that Vecna's primary method of attack is psychological. We see Will looking just terrified. He's expressing this immense despair, saying, "We failed, we never stood a chance."
That's the hive mind talking.
It's the psychological toll of being plugged into that hive mind. He's witnessing all this destruction firsthand, so his new powers didn't make him a badass. They made him a hyper-aware victim.
So his connection is a double-edged sword.
It's a direct line into Vecna's mind, which means he's getting hit with Vecna's raw destructive power and his demoralizing intent at the same time. His role in this final fight is almost certainly going to be tracking and guiding. He's the antenna.
A very sensitive, very vulnerable antenna.
Exactly. He has the coordinates to the lair, but he doesn't have the strength to use that information offensively. Not yet.
Okay, so contrast that vulnerability with this incredible power dynamic we're about to see, with the highly anticipated alliance between 11 and Callie. 8.
Yes, this is a potential game changer.
11 is all business now. She goes to Callie and says directly, help me find him and kill him. That tells me Callie is already up to speed. She knows who Vecna is.
She has to be. That reunion is both, emotionally powerful, but also strategically essential. Callie brings more than just extra psychic muscle to the table.
She brings a ruthlessness.
A ruthlessness and a tactical street smart sense that she's honed from years on the run. She's been fighting the same institutions that are now hunting 11, and we see that immediately. She's shown attacking a soldier.
Right. Securing 11's freedom.
It's the perfect move. It removes the military's hold on Element and instantly shifts the dynamic. 11 now has an ally who is willing to fight the human obstacles just as fiercely as the supernatural ones.
Their shared trauma, from Brenner to Vecna, it makes them a formidable team.
Possibly the only team capable of confronting this dimensional tier head-on.
All right, now for what I think is the strangest, most interesting tactical move we're seeing. The mission with Max and Holly.
This is a wild one.
Their plan seems to involve them navigating through some kind of hole or portal into Henry Creel's old house, Mr. Watson's house. I mean, this feels incredibly high risk. Why go into the villain's personal history?
It's a classic example of using psychological intrusion as a weapon. They're not attacking his physical form, they're attacking his mind. That entry point, which seems to lead them through Henry's earliest, most traumatic memories, it suggests they're looking for a weakness.
A chink in the armor.
A moment of vulnerability in his past that they can exploit in the present. And that strange gate they walk through, it looks a lot like Dr. Brenner's underground lab, doesn't it?
It does. It's just a memory portal, a psychic construct.
Right. And the probable episode title, Escape from Kamchatka, that points to some kind of desperate, complex extraction mission through these mental or dimensional barriers.
And the most important part of this whole plan, it seems like they are the bait.
Oh, 100%?
They are deliberately leading him on a chase.
Precisely. Their actions are designed to draw Vecna after them. The sequence culminates with them moving towards Holly's room in the Wheeler house. This isn't just an intel mission. They are actively baiting him out of his lair.
Forcing him to divert his attention from the big ritual.
Exactly. Pulling him into a vulnerable, emotionally familiar mental landscape. They're forcing this omnipotent being to engage with them on their small, intimate human turf.
And if they can distract him.
The rest of the group gets a window. a chance to attack the lair while the master is occupied.
That strategy of diversion leads us right to the next point of conflict and the immediate danger that Mike is in. He's been singled out.
He has. Mike is identified as the next main target. And this is purely strategic on Vecna's part. It's brilliant in a horrible way.
It's not about power.
No, it's about psychology. He's targeting Mike because of his closeness to both Eleven and Will. Vecna is an incredibly intelligent entity who thrives on this kind of psychological warfare. He knows Mike is the emotional linchpin of the entire group.
So taking out Mike is a way to cripple two of his most powerful opponents at once.
It's a strategic move designed to shatter Eleven's focus and disrupt Will's already tenuous second connection. It's Vecna proving he understands their emotional dynamics better than they do themselves. He's aiming at the weakest point in their collective armor.
And we see Mike looking up in terror at that giant red light in the sky. He's in the crosshairs.
Physically in the crosshairs. And this is all made worse by the internal strife that's already happening in the group.
There's dialogue that points to a major conflict between Mike and Eleven. Mike says, if we want to stand a chance of surviving, we need to be a team.
Which is not a pep talk.
No, that's a plea. It implies they are fundamentally not a team right now.
The emotional stakes are just dangerously high. And the source of that disunity is, well, it's strongly speculated to be Will.
Which adds this impossible layer of emotional complexity to a battle where they need absolute unity to survive.
And this brings us to that much-discussed fan theory, the Byler's dynamic, which has been fueled by some interesting internal search metrics. The idea of a potential romantic relationship between Will and Mike.
If that connection is actually explored in these final episodes,
it could easily be the trigger for Eleven's current anger or dissatisfaction, feeling sidelined, maybe even betrayed at the exact moment the world is ending. The internal drama is just layered on so thick.
Which gives Vecna a whole menu of emotional weaknesses to exploit.
It makes perfect sense. In a life or death situation, if your core human relationships are fractured, your ability to execute a complex strategy like, finding a loophole in dimensional physics goes to zero.
Okay, let's turn now to where the raw human emotion of all this lives, because this is where it gets really interesting and, frankly, analytically devastating for me. The emotional core of all the current data revolves around Steve and Dustin, that pact they make.
It's heavy.
Steve looks right at Dustin and tells him, "You die, I die," and Dustin says it right back.
The emotional weight in that one exchange is the highest it has ever been for those two. It's a classic narrative device, It's strongly suggesting that one of them is going to make a heroic, self-sacrificing play for the other.
It's the culmination of their whole arc.
It is. It started as this weird, kind of funny mentorship, and it's become this genuine, protective brotherhood. And if we're looking at it analytically, we have to consider the role each of them plays.
Dustin is the brain.
Dustin is the emotional anchor and the strategic brain. He's essential for the group's long-term survival. Steve, on the other hand, has constantly redefined himself as the protector, the babysitter, the one who runs headfirst into danger to keep the kids safe.
So if we're just looking at narrative probability, the character who has found his ultimate purpose through selfless protection
is often the one who gets the devastating heroic exit.
The odds are stacked heavily against Steve here.
They really are. And that feeling is just amplified by those other shots we see of Dustin in tears, embracing Jonathan and the others. It strongly suggests a major loss has just happened or is about to happen.
It sets up this devastating farewell where Steve makes the ultimate move to ensure that Dustin, the future strategist, gets away to fight another day.
The sacrifice, if it happens, will be about protecting the brain, not the brawn.
And speaking of devastation, we have this occurring, completely mysterious visual that's haunting all the analysis.
The falling person.
The unidentified falling person. Someone was just plummeting from the sky or through a dimensional tear, and it's a repeated image, which tells us it's significant.
The identity is one of the biggest and scariest mysteries right now. Because whoever it is, their fall signifies a major dimensional disruption. If we look at the context, it seems to be directly related to the chaos of the dimensions merging.
So who could it be?
Well, the candidates fall into two main camps. First, it could be a flashback. We could be seeing Henry Creel entering Dimension X for the very first time. A traumatic origin moment, his body being physically ripped through space.
Whoa.
Or, and this is maybe more tragic, it could be Max or Holly. Falling through a portal during that chaotic escape attempt from Henry's memories, it would suggest their high-risk mission goes terribly wrong.
A physical or a psychic fall through the dimensional boundaries.
Yeah. The ambiguity of it is what makes it so terrifying. It symbolizes the total collapse of the rules of reality in this final phase.
Let's quickly shift focus to the survival status of some key supporting players, just to understand all the hazards they're facing. First, we need to confirm the fate of our favorite conspiracy theorist.
Murray.
Murray's survival is confirmed. The old guy survived another high-speed car crash. Of course he did.
He is essentially the cockroach of this group, held together by duct tape and high-level paranoia. But yes, despite that severe van crash, he's alive, he's injured, but he is still behind the wheel.
He's still their driver.
He's still their essential transport, and probably their link to communication and tracking gear. He's vital.
Nancy, meanwhile, is fully embracing her evolution into the true, resourceful badass of the group.
Oh, absolutely. We see Nancy completely weaponized. She's fighting the military, firing a machine gun.
This is a critical development.
It is, because it signals her commitment to fighting this war on two fronts. She understands that the human obstacles, the relentless military, are just as immediate and lethal a threat as any creature from another dimension.
She's transformed from an investigative reporter into a hardened combatant.
Fully. She is prepared for violent engagement with military personnel.
Okay, finally, let's talk about Vicky's plight. Robin's girlfriend, Vicky, is seen facing a demodog near a hospital. This is a strange place for this to happen.
It is. A very mundane, non-dimensional medical facility and a very supernatural creature. But this links directly back to that Max and Holly mission.
To the vulnerability of Max's physical body.
Exactly. We have other evidence suggesting that the hospital where Max's body is physically located is under attack. There are demodogs there. The theory is that Vecna, who is being hassled by Max's psychological interference inside his own mind,
In Henry Creel's memories.
he's executing a ruthless countermove. He sends his creatures to target Max's physical body in the right side up.
If her body dies while her mind is trapped.
Her consciousness is permanently eradicated in his realm. It's a brutal, calculated tactic to eliminate the interference while she's hopeless. And Vicky is tragically caught in that crossfire, trying to protect the physical target.
Let's turn our attention back to the architect of all this chaos. We have some terrifying new details about Vecna's transformation and his final world-ending plan. We see a sequence of Henry or Mr. Watson undergoing this final brutal transition. He's suspended in the air inside a house. His bones are visibly bending and folding. It's an agonizing metamorphosis into Vecna. And he says, "It is time for a new world."
That sequence is meant to be profoundly unsettling. It's showing the final, painful steps of him sacrificing the last bits of his humanity for this cosmic power. And crucially, we see him connecting to the tendrils of the hive mind inside a lair.
A hidden control point.
A centralized control point that the group has not yet been able to infiltrate. This lair is the center of his final ritual.
So detail that endgame ritual for us. How does he actually plan to initiate this dimensional collapse?
The kidnapping goal is now crystal clear. Vecna needs the psychic energy, or maybe the literal life force, of the 12 kidnapped children to complete his ritual.
So they're not just hostages.
They're sacrifices. He's physically connecting to a wall or a chamber. It looks a lot like the one Will drew in his visions, where these children are gathered. They're acting as sacrificial batteries.
Okay.
After he secures them, he positions himself at the center of this chamber, and that's when he initiates that massive red blast we've been talking about. That's the moment that brings about his new world.
So the collapse of the Upside Down, the revealing of Dimension X, it's all tied to this one energy-intensive ritual using the lives of these children.
That's the mechanism for the celestial takeover.
What's so fascinating, though, is the evidence that this entity, this incredibly powerful being, is not stable. We see the glitch theory in action.
Yes.
The visual transition between Henry Creel and his lab clothes, Mr. Watson, and the full Vecna form it's glitching. It's rapidly flipping between identities. Why is he so unstable?
That instability points to a critical, exploitable vulnerability in his system. We have to stop thinking of the hive mind as just a network of creatures and start seeing it as a single distributed nervous system.
With Vecna as the central process of the brain.
Exactly. And there's a scene where we see a Demogorgon being brutally tortured, electrocuted, cabled up by either the group or the military.
Okay.
Since Vecna is inherently and physically connected to every part of the hive mind, torturing a foot soldier like a Demogorgon could trigger a painful systemic response.
So it's a neural feedback loop. If you inflict severe pain on one appendage.
The brain short circuits.
Wow.
The electrocution of that Demogorgon could be what triggers that glitch in Vecna himself. It manifests as that visual instability, where his identity momentarily breaks down and flicks between his past human forms.
So while he's physically dominant, the network itself is his ultimate weakness.
It could be. The group, or maybe even the military, could potentially exploit this, create a chain reaction failure across the network, and force the master to lose focus and stability at the most critical moment of his ritual.
This brings us to the final and most frustrating strategic element in all of this. The relentless, unending presence of the military.
Yes.
Dr. K is still alive, still leading the fight, which confirms the military is still narrowly focused on pursuing 11. They seem completely incapable of grasping the reality of Vecna's threat.
It's just astonishing, their strategic blindness. I mean, you have supernatural devastation, a visible collapse of reality in the sky, their own officers are dead, and they still doubt the existence of Vecna as a dimensional entity.
Their tunnel vision is locked on 11, the known anomaly.
The known human anomaly, exactly. Nancy and possibly Callie are actively fighting military personnel. This confirms that this internal human conflict paranoia versus an existential threat is far from over.
They're focused on regulating the known variable instead of confronting the unknown catastrophe.
Which makes them a dangerous, self-defeating obstacle in the way of the group's efforts to save the world.
They are essentially doing Vecna's cleanup work for him.
They are. And their continued engagement with the heroes ensures that this fight remains a complex, three-dimensional problem. Vecna's power, the dimension's collapse, and the human military's interference.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground. From the collapse of one dimension to the rise of another, and the devastating personal costs of it all. For you, the listener, here's the synthesis. Here's what you absolutely need to take away from this. Will is struggling mentally, but his psychic connection is still the single most powerful tracking tool they have. New, formidable alliances are forming, with 11 and Callie joining forces, blending brute force with strategic ruthlessness.
Right.
The Upside Down is officially a deception. It's a stepping stone masking the true, terrifying scale of Dimension X. And perhaps most painfully, a major heroic sacrifice involving Steve or Dustin is now highly, highly likely to happen to protect the Brain Trust.
And you should care deeply about all this because the rules of the universe are changing in real time. The stakes are no longer local, they're not even regional, they're universal. This fight isn't about saving Hawkins anymore. Hawkins is already lost.
Irrevocably lost.
It's about saving reality itself from a superior multidimensional entity whose destructive plan is now fully operational. It's visible in the sky as that massive, terrifying red blast.
It's the ultimate showdown. But let's leave you with this one final provocative thought to consider.
Oh.
We've established that the biggest revelation might be that the Mind Flayer and Dimension X are the true force controlling this event. And that Henry, or Vecna, might just be the ultimate powerful foot soldier executing the will of a higher unseen power.
So if that's true, what does true victory even look like? If the group manages to defeat Vecna, maybe even kill him, are they just luring themselves into a false sense of security?
If Vecna is the puppet,
and the Mind Flayer is the true architect of Dimension X, then eliminating the puppet could just set up an even larger, more complex, and frankly, insurmountable threat for the future.
the fight might not end with the dimensional collapse.
It might just evolve into a new, terrifying status quo where they've eliminated a known quantity, only to be faced with an infinite unknown void. What happens after the battle is won. That's the real dread.